put your controllers down, put your feet up. It's games night. So, as you can see, Paul's off this week, which I'm sure has absolutely nothing to do with the GTA launch, so I'll be a host tonight. Hope it's not too weird for you all. So tonight we've got a whole host of topics and some classic gaming goodness. Check it out. Wii Fit, Iron Man, and of course, Grand Theft Auto 4 Liberty City. For those of you who don't know the GTA series, where the hell have you been for the last 11 years? So for those of you who do know, you'll know it's all about the anti-hero rampaging in the city of crime. And what a bunch of anti-heroes we have rampaging in the studio tonight. I'm just hoping they've brought their Kalashnikovs. Tonight's guests are David Jenkins, games editor for Teletext; Dr. Mike Reddy, lecturer in games development at the University of Wales, Newport; Ellie Gibson of Eurogamer; and finally, Jonathan Goddard, PR manager for EA. So, what's everyone been up to in the last couple of weeks? Dr. Mike, what have you been?
Very busy week. A couple of days ago, I drove a load of students up to Manchester for a Games Grads, which is a graduate event just for gamers, and gave a presentation at the Games Edu conference on how the industry and the university should work together.
Oh, fantastic. So, John, what do you agree with that? Development and games?
Sure. Well, we're obviously up for working with people, especially if they're as charismatic as Dr.
Oh, absolutely. And so what have you been up to in the last couple of weeks? Anything new and exciting?
Yeah, well, we're sponsoring Sci-Fi London Film Festival this year, so it's running this weekend until Sunday, and we've got a whole range of activities going on, a big set build, and we're promoting Dead Space, Mass Effect for PC and a few other titles, lots of cinema trailers and giveaways, and we're trying to connect with the sort of sci-fi audience.
Stuff. So busy for you then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right, and Ellie, good to meet you finally. Good to have you on. What have you been up to?
Well, I spent most of last week in Spain, courtesy of Sierra. We went over to Mallorca to have a look at their lineup for kind of the rest of the year, and saw some good stuff. My particular favourite was Ghostbusters, which is really looking excellent. They've got all the main cast members in there. They've got a script and a storyline by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, and it really is shaping up to be lots of fun, I think.
Cool, because I've heard a lot about that. It's sort of Ghostbusters 3, essentially, you know. It's the
that's even Dan Aykroyd is kind of saying it's the plot that they wrote for the third movie. So it should
that's
be good.
so cool. That's brilliant. Looking forward to that. And yeah, good to meet you, David. Good to have you on. Nice socks. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Freshly washed, just for you. I've recently been playing Left 4 Dead, Valve's new game, a lovely EA press event, and it was excellent. They were billing it as the next answer to Counter-Strike, and I think it could well be.
Cool, fantastic. Have you had a go at that at all yourself?
Yeah, it's looking absolutely phenomenal. So,
cool.
It's zombies.
Oh, fantastic.
As many as you could want. It's fantastic.
Brilliant stuff. And what do you make of the zombies?
I've actually written book chapters on zombies. I'm a big fan of the slow zombie.
The wrong kind of zombie.
Shouldn't have said that, should I? But I'm really looking forward to this game. Just can't wait.
Brilliant stuff. Cool. Okay, well, thanks very much, everyone. We're going to have a look at the charts now. First up is the all-format chart. Actually, Dr. Mike, I'll come back to you. Could you talk us through the chart here?
Yes, well, at number 1, Wii Fit, no surprise, really. Number 2, Mario Kart Wii. Again, it's still floating up the top there. Mario and Sonic, consistent seller. And after that, it kind of gets more multi-platform, because they're really very strong single things. Gran Turismo 5 Prologue on number 4. 5 Pairs. Real favourite there. Call of Duty 4 still up in the charts, number 6. Number 7, Sega Superstars Tennis, which is great. Number 8, Brain Training. That's a new entry, surely. Number 9, UEFA Euro 208. Personally, I don't play football games, but they're always consistent sellers. And number 10, Rainbow Six Vegas 2.
So, what do we make of that? What do we make of the sort of proliferation of, say, Nintendo titles there? Ellie, have you got anything to say about that?
Well, I think it's no surprise that Wii Fit has done so well, because it is kind of so new and it's had so much press, really. But yeah, I'm not sure a couple of years ago if any of us would have predicted with our hands on hearts that it would be the Wii dominating the chart to quite such an extent, whereas, you know, the PS3, I think there's one single platform title for them in there, and no Xbox 360 exclusives, not even Halo 3. Although Call of Duty, of course, still doing well.
I think Halo's at 30 or something at the moment.
The only real multi-format entry there is Pro Evo Soccer, which is, for all the consoles. All the others, it's actually, this is a multi-format chart, and yet a lot of the things there are single format.
You'll see on the
entries.
individual format chart, they're all there because of the Wii version.
Well, we can actually have a look at that now if we take a look at the single format chart. And if you want to talk us through this, David.
It's every single game is for a Nintendo format product, and almost all of them
That's
Nintendo
brilliant.
published as well. The thing that strikes me here is how similar this looks to Japanese charts of a year ago. Although there it was the DS that was nominating because the Wii wasn't out there, but otherwise this is almost exactly the same setup you saw in Japan. It's almost as if their market is a preview of what we'll get a year later.
The PSP is doing very well in Japan, hasn't it? Hasn't it overtaken the...
Well, the PSP is in a bizarre situation with the hardware. It's doing extraordinarily well, outselling the Wii and DS on occasions. But the software is absolutely abysmal. Monster Hunter sells extremely well, as high or higher than anything. And everything else just doesn't exist, essentially.
Got a very low attach rate.
The attach rate is just bottoming, because people just don't seem to be buying it for games.
Well, exactly. You have to question why people are buying it. They're buying it because they can effectively use it as a remote control for their PS3.
Well, also as a media player as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, but unfortunately,
it's
not a gaming
It's a
platform.
lovely console, but unfortunately no one seems to be interested in playing video games on it.
Being a media player, though, it's not making any money. You have to sell games to make money on these consoles.
And no one seems to want to actually make games for it anymore, or at least not as much. At the Sierra event, I noticed there were very few PSP games on show, and actually went on Games Press and did a quick search. And on their kind of basic release schedule, there's 50 games in development for PSP, and there's 150 in development for DS. So that would suggest, that publishers are kind of are picking their hand.
And I'd say that's entirely Sony's fault as well, because the DS and Wii has been a success purely because of Nintendo's first-party titles, and it's down to Sony. If they wanted their portable console to be a success, it was down to them to make the games, just as Nintendo did. Nintendo had no free card with the DS.
Guys, I'm going to have to cut you off there because it's time to review our next game. We're reviewing Iron Man here. It's Secret Level's next.
No,
It's Secret Level's next-gen take on the recent Marvel film. It seems perfectly suited for the action genre. We've got Iron Man, the main character, building a high-tech, upgradable suit that lets him fly, absorb damage, use projectile weapons, all the rest of it. So traditionally, games based on movies don't fare too well. So should we see if Iron Man can buck the trend? So, I'm going to come to you first, Ellie. Is it a tried and tested formula, or is it a tired and testing formula?
It's a bit rubbish, really.
Oh, really?
Isn't it? Yeah, that's the bottom line. It hasn't bucked any trends for movie game tie-ins.
Really?
I quite enjoyed it at first, just because you get a flamethrower and you get to punch tanks, which I thought was brilliant.
Fantastic.
But the novelty very quickly wears off, and you realise that once again, unfortunately, you're playing a pretty average video game based on a movie.
OK, and what we're seeing on screen here, David Jenkins, perhaps you could talk us through this?
I'm sure anyone that's ever played a video game based on a movie can guess what's happening here. It's the one good thing about it, and we shouldn't overemphasise this because it doesn't really help, is that the flying is excellent. They've actually handled that very well. Actually, just flying around is quite a bit of fun, much more so than the Superman game, and the ability to hover, although it's slightly awkward, also works very well.
Cool. OK, and Dr. Mike, what did you anything amazing about this game? Anything that grabbed you?
I think it's very polished, but it's one of these games where the art assets are fantastic. They've got really talented people working on it, but there's problems with the camera control. There's a few issues, which makes me think it was done quickly. And even really talented people doing something too quickly can fall down. And I really missed the first-person view. I wanted to be Iron Man, and you constantly saw this model, and I think it's a shame it's third person.
John, did you get much hands-on time with this?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it slightly more than I expected to.
Okay.
I agree with David, the flying is excellent. It's really good fun. You do feel that this amazing three-dimensional the spatial awareness of being in in this great suit. You can fly in lots of different directions, and you've got some nice weapons you can engage mid-air. Beating up tanks is fun. Yeah, there are camera control problems. I got stuck behind the wreckage of a tank that I destroyed in the first level and had to restart and things like that. You know, there were some quite bad glitches, but
we're actually being a little kind here. I mean, there were appalling problems almost, you know, from the first instant. I mean, the first level, you're just running into the screen in the silver suit. You've probably seen in the trailers, and so you know you're not even moving left and right, and yet even so there's tons of slowdown, even though there's absolutely nothing going on screen. And baddies who are essentially just running towards you manage to divert left and right and get stuck behind boulders, and that's within the first 10 seconds.
Okay, so
it's just shockingly poor.
But that's just down to time and polish,
but there's
really.
no excuse for that, because Sega bought the Iron Man license like 3 years ago, and all right, they didn't have the plot of the movie, but you know, it's Iron Man. You can pretty much guess what he's going to be up to in the movie. Why they couldn't have prototyped this years ago and had a good quality game ready, you know, for the movie script to be you know, placed on top of, I don't know. There is no real excuse, certainly not for a comic book character.
It is dark, isn't it?
it looks polished, though. I mean, in terms of the graphics and the characters, they look
well,
right.
yeah, until they slow down in your movie in slow motion.
Yeah, until the frames per second get to be a bit of a problem. Yeah, it's true.
I've spoken to developers about this kind of issue, and a lot of them are really frustrated because they kind of get this movie license thrown at them, and usually with very little relative time. You know, it's not like an original IP where you can take years developing your ideas and working out the best way to make the game work and polish it up. You know, you're given a deadline, and the deadline is often the day the movie comes out, and that can't be moved.
No,
so no matter what goes wrong in the development process, it's tough. The game's coming out then whether you like it or not.
Compromises always have to be made when you're making a movie license.
Yeah, no,
because
fair
you do
enough.
have those things to do, and you know, obviously EA has produced many film tie-ins, and you know, and I think it's one of the hardest development processes because there are, you are licensing someone else's product.
Franchise development.
And
yeah.
I think you have to judge them against each other, and you do as well as you can.
I'm going to get some scores from you all now.
You know that the average casual gamer is not going to be doing that. It's unfair.
But, okay, it's obviously, you know, got us rather emotional. Let's give it some scores. Come on, David.
To be honest, with GTA, I haven't played this enough to do a full review, so I'll be hopelessly optimistic and give it a 4.
Okay.
I suspect it'll turn into a 3.
Ellie?
I give it a 4. It's possibly a 3, but you can punch tanks. So
Punching tanks, John.
6, in spite of the awful button bashing bits, where you actually have to press the button so fast it's practically impossible.
It's very hard, that bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well,
Mike.
I'm going to sound really very generous with a 7, I'm afraid.
Wow.
I think as a movie tie-in film, that as part of the whole media package, I think
someone's going to pay 40 quid for that when they could have had
you
Grand
fancy
Theft Auto
Robert Downey
instead.
Jr. or something.
Okay,
That's just ridiculous.
cool. Thanks very much for your scores, guys. That's it for this part. Don't go anywhere. We've got GTA 4 coming up.